1. A little background. I work for a 2-star hotel, common hotel brand with a shiny status membership. My story begins near the end of my shift. It had been an unusually peaceful night, and I was in a fairly chipper mood because of it. Around 6:40 a.m., I received a call from a man that supposedly had the same last name as the owner of the hotel, and many others, if you can already tell where my tale is going. He introduced himself as an employee of the overarching big brand name that our hotel belongs under, and began his lightning-fast introduction as to the purpose of his call. My hotel was apparently supposed to have a surprise COVID inspection that we just had to pass, and we were going to be receiving several packages of sanitizing and COVID supplies. Although my experience in hospitality was less than a year, my BS meter was tinkling. However, because my position as a night auditor gives me very little notice of things going on during the day, aka no one tells me shit, I decided to treat the call as if it were legit just in case. The man proceeds to have me write down a ton of information. The number of packages we were to receive, the items listed in each package, the shipping and tracking numbers, etc. He's quizzing me every so often to make sure I have the exact information. At this point, I have to put him on hold because several guests are wishing to check out and all wanted printed receipts. He gets upset with this, but had no choice if he were to continue his facade of working for the big hotel name brand. After a few minutes, I returned to the call. He asked for my name and my manager's name, and I proceed to give him only my first name and just the last of my manager's name. I did not even give him the title of Mr., Ms., Mrs., because I did not trust this person or the story they were trying to sell me. After having me write down some more useless information, a Nokia ringtone blasts through the phone. The man states that it's my manager, who he gendered incorrectly because I didn't give him their title, returning his call, and he was going to speak to them on the other line. They make a big show of having a conversation with them, which at this point, I know this is a scam call, as my manager doesn't get out of bed before 9 a.m. unless the hotel is literally on fire, and proceeds to tell me that my manager would like for me to listen carefully and follow all of the scammer's directions because this was so very important and my job would be on the line otherwise. At this point, I was over this person wasting my time. I knew without a doubt that this was a scam. Playing along that he was apparently speaking with my manager, I asked him to speak with my manager about giving him their first name to pass along to me, as this was their policy, and assuring me that all was legitimate, a lie, but I knew this would be their nail in the coffin. It was then that his entire attitude changed. He began screaming at me about how rude I was and how dare I speak to him that way. He told me I was fired and to leave the hotel immediately. I couldn't help but giggle and told him that I didn't understand why he was so upset with me when I was just following my manager's policy, who could assure him of the same thing, as he was still speaking with them on the other line. He didn't like this response and proceeded to scream and cuss very poorly at me. I told him better luck next time and hung up. 2. As far as the name of the hotel is concerned, I'll just throw that my hotel is super. A group of 5 people showed up to check into the 3 rooms they had already reserved and paid for. 4 guys and 1 girl. One of the guys looked particularly feral, intense stare and all. I gave them their 3 rooms and went to do one of my rounds of spraying the hotel to cover up the smell of smoke on the 3rd floor where our smoking rooms are. When I returned, they were all back at the front desk saying they wanted a refund because they saw roaches in one of the rooms. They didn't so much as ask as much as all of them saying they'll be needing their refund now, or that they would just rather take the refund. I don't believe for a second that there were roaches, as our fumigator had just come, but that is besides the point. I don't give refunds on the spot. I always shrug that decision off to my manager, as that's the way my manager likes it. As far as I'm concerned, I can't give refunds, but I can cancel reservations that aren't third-party. I proceeded to walk between them and tell them that they would have to talk to the manager the following day when he is awake, and proceeded to put a business card on the desk that has his information on it. Walking between these people gave me the oddest sense of anxiety. I then opened the door to the office next to the front desk and closed it behind me. I've never had a problem telling people that I can't immediately give them back the refund, but my instincts were like a tiny alarm going off in my head. So this time I went behind the front desk, I opened my drawer in the office, and took out a kitchen knife which I shoved in my pocket. I reappeared, and the largest one started saying things like, "But I won't be paying." To which I replied, "I'm afraid you'll have to wait to talk to the manager to see whether that's necessary or not." Apparently, this caused the feral-looking guy to lose his shit because he proclaimed, "Fuck this," and ran full speed at the office door before throwing his shoulder into it in an effort to break it open. I heard the wood of the doorframe crack, and I became dumbfounded. After he backed up to take a second charge, I took the knife out of my pocket, touched the tip of the very long blade to the counter so that he could see its length, and proceeded to tell him, "I have a knife, and if you try to come back here, I'm going to stab you." Watching this guy was like watching Animal Planet. When I told him he was at risk of getting stabbed, he had been about to charge the door again, but he stopped in his tracks. He spurted something like, "That's how it is." But I was more confused on the way he was walking. He was prowling, and his eyes looked like the eyes of an animal who was aggressive but also afraid of getting hurt. I then immediately picked up the phone and told him I was calling the police. They filed out of the lobby, and I actually hadn't called the police because I forgot I had to dial 9 before dialing an outside number. As far as I was concerned, defending myself and preventing him from entering took priority over calling the police. Probably would have just gotten them on the phone by the time he broke into the office, if I'd gone straight for the phone. Does stuff like this happen at your guys' hotels? My manager showed me the video the next day, and I hadn't been able to see it before, but the person who tried to break into the office aggressively reached into the pocket before deciding to leave. Was probably thinking of shooting me or engaging in a knife fight? Damn. 3. Perhaps the most amusing part about attending to members is often finding yourself making drinks you never knew existed. The adrenaline of finding the easiest recipe on the web in record time, so they don't get bugged by the duration of the wait. A different kind of thrill. Definitely not one I like, but hey, there are worse thrills out there, and I'd take this one over handing someone a screwdriver. A tool instead of a screwdriver, the drink, any day. But the story that's about to unfold is not one that belongs to me, but rather one I witnessed and truly love. It was just another day. Nay, it was a busy day. There was a buffet and an event, and just, the usual chaos all around. A bunch of women make their way into the hall they booked and start chatting away, occasionally walking up to the bar and waiting for the drinks, with Mai Tais being their go-to, whilst describing the iconic moments of their time in the last year. There was just chatter and giggles to be heard all around when, exactly at the 1:03 p.m. mark, there was a sudden silence in the group. Why, you ask? A lone gentleman entered the party. The poor soul was surrounded by laughter within seconds, and the realization that he was the only man from their office to show up to the Christmas party was written clear as day on his face. But nonetheless, he was a good sport, made fun of himself, and indulged in all the conversations around him. After a good 20 minutes of making conversation, he excused himself and made his way towards the bar. He was flushed, no joke. Haven't seen a color as red since. He made a joke about how the men at his company sucked to one of the servers, and the tangerine-colored drink in the co-worker's hands looked really good. He could really use a Mai Tai right now. Now, said server was the only one available at the time, but she had no idea how a Mai Tai is made. She asked for help, and in the end just had to Google it. She apologized to the man. He was good about it. She spent a good 5 minutes looking for the perfect and easy-to-do recipe, and another 15 locating all the ingredients. Somehow her Mai Tai was blue instead of its usual tangerine color. She made a joke about making a guy drink. He laughed. She contemplated making it again. In the end, figured to hell with it. It's probably got to taste the same, as she did follow the recipe. And our ever-so-amused onlooker seemed to agree with that logic. She shook the cocktail and shaker one last time and went on her merry way to look for the right glass, which was on the other end of the bar. In the meanwhile, one of the other servers decided the bar was too messy. And she wasn't wrong, the first server did turn the place upside down looking for ingredients. I guess out of the goodness of her heart and just wanting things clean, the second server started cleaning up the bar, saw the funny-looking liquid in the shaker, and threw it in the sink just as you heard a defeated "No" from the other end of the bar. Cue the bellyache laughter that followed from all parties involved, with the first server explaining, in a rather exaggerated manner, the hell she went through trying to make a Mai Tai, and the gentleman just telling her he's happy to wait out here as long as it takes. He's most definitely in no hurry. The second server apologized while still laughing and offers to teach her how to make a proper Mai Tai, and roasting her for the blue-colored Mai Tai. The whole ordeal probably took 20 minutes, but it's definitely one of my favorite stories to tell newcomers when they join work. As a cautionary tale, of course. 4. Back when I used to work in a less populated area, a lot of our business came from our workers, and there was a group of construction guys that I had seen once or twice before in passing, until one day I got to interact with all of them directly. Things went well, I checked them in, everything seemed good. Then a little while later into the evening, one of them shows up with a flower and sets it down in front of me at the desk. "Here, this will make the area happier," he says, swaying a bit. I smile and thank him as he walks away. And being young and naive, as well as being preoccupied with a task on the computer, I didn't really realize that he'd clearly had a few. Then he comes up to me again later in the night and says to me, "There are rubber sheets on the bed?" I took a moment to process, and being confused, I just said, "I'm sorry." Then he goes on a rant about how there are rubber sheets on the bed by the window, that he undid the beds and found that it is not sanitary, that sweat builds up and makes you slide around, and that he pulled his back because of it, and that he didn't know why it was only on his bed, and that I should make note of it. By now, I could obviously tell that he was drunk, and I could smell it on him as well. I began to apologize, and he stopped and told me very sternly that it's not my fault, and that I shouldn't be sorry, and that it's the manager's fault. I told him that I would make note of it for the manager in the morning, and make sure that it was addressed. He seemed happy and satisfied with that, so he left. Then a while later, he came back again to complain about these rubber sheets, and this time he was angrier. It was late into the night at this point, and he demanded for me to call the manager. I tried to tell him that they would be here in the morning, they were most likely sleeping, but he wanted me to call them now because it was important. I didn't even know what he meant by rubber sheets, and I kept trying to get him to explain what he meant, but it was all incoherent. I knew he wasn't going to take no for an answer, and being new to the front desk, I panicked, so I did what I could think of to do in the moment, because I wasn't calling my manager over this. I called myself, knowing I keep my phone on silent, and when my manager didn't answer, then I told him they were probably asleep, and that I would be able to pass his concerns on to him in the morning. He still wanted to speak to the manager because, he was drunk and wasn't able to use logic. And the whole time I could hear his coworkers snickering down the hallway, which kind of pissed me off. They thought this was funny. Why not come and get your guy and calm him down? Help me out here. Then I asked if he wanted to move rooms. He immediately looked relieved and said, "Yes, that'd be great." Which maybe I should have thought of to offer that sooner. So that move took a bit because he had his coworker with him and they had to get their stuff and everything. And I was waiting for this guy to inspect his new room because he said he was going to make sure it didn't have rubber sheets too. But I just sat there the whole time, hoping to God that whatever these rubber sheets were, this new room didn't have them, because I didn't know what he was talking about, and I wasn't about to go up there with a bunch of drunk guys. I'm 21, female. He walked by later, and I asked him how the new room was, and he said it was great. He undid both beds, and there were no rubber sheets. So everything was all good. I asked him to bring back the old keys, and he said he would. A while passed, and he didn't, and I knew they were still awake, seeing them come and go, so I had to call and remind them. When I did, this dude's coworker or roommate answered the phone. I asked him to bring the old keys back, and the dude said he would get them to me. Then he started apologizing for his coworker and thanking me for being cool about it. Internally, I was screaming, but on the phone, I was just like, sure, no problem. The issue's resolved, and everyone was happy, so we're good. Drunk guy's coworker came down and brought me the old keys and thanked me again. I said it was all right, but he brushed me off and said the drunk guy totally treated me like shit, that he gets mean when he drinks, that he is like this a lot. Kind of vents to me a little bit, and then he goes back to his room while saying something along the lines of, "I owe you one." Finally, they all stop coming through the lobby and most likely have gone to bed. Right before my shift ends, my relief shows up, and I go to check the room. My coworker is afraid they got sick or trashed the room and tried to cover it up with their rubber sheets excuse. Maybe, but I didn't think so, because this guy seemed genuinely pissed off about them. So, since they've all gone to bed and I'm not the sole employee on site anymore, I go up to check the old room, the one with the so-called rubber sheets. My coworker comes with me as backup. We open the door, and everything is fine. Bathroom has been slightly used, and the beds are completely unmade, but no bodily fluids. Then I see what he meant. Apparently, this was one of the few, only, rooms to have plastic mattress covers. Only on the bed towards the window. I had never seen them because I never did housekeeping, and the only mattress pads I ever saw in the laundry were padded fabric. I did double duty in the laundry room sometimes, and never knew we had any plastic ones, so mystery solved. Before I left, I wrote a note for management in the morning, saying that this dude was drunk and I had to move him because of the rubber sheets. This story makes me laugh now, but at the time it was pretty stressful, because I was so new and still didn't really know what I was doing. 5. At my hotel, we have a contract to host a cruise for a regional airline. The overwhelming majority of these people are good, hard-working people who understand that we're all but cogs in the machine. There are, however, a few who have forgotten that grinding gears gets no deference from the machine. I had one such guest last night. This interaction actually began over a month ago when I received a call from a pilot requesting that a certain inbound crew be placed in suites. To be exact, he asked, "Why does my crew never get any suites?" I understood the subtext to be accusatory, and so I felt a bit defensive. I explained that all the rooms we assigned to crews were done so with scheduling and cleaning in mind, so that they could be clean and ready for the next crew. That the order in which they were doled out was due more to logistics than anything else. "So am I getting a suite tonight or what?" he asked, with the added edge to his tone. "Let me get some information and I can tell you," I said, and I got the information I needed in order to complete the query. "As it turns out, sir, your rooms are assigned to standard rooms tonight." "So we get screwed then?" He spat and then promptly hung up. I was quite taken aback. There was so much animosity over a room he would end up spending a total of 12 hours in. On the one hand, it wasn't worth it to have a fight, but on the other, it would throw the schedule out of whack to switch rooms between crews. I realized I could just switch the rooms to others that were outside the regular rotation, but then I realized I didn't want to, so I didn't. Fast forward to last night. I'm closing up my shift and my coworker gets a call from a crew that was just landing, asking if they could have suites. I instantly thought, what are the odds? I informed her to let them know that we could do it, but they would have to stop by the desk. She looked at me funny, but I told her to trust me. When they arrived, I put on an air of exaggerated exuberance that was out of place for 1:45 and began with, hello, welcome. I simply must apologize. I did not realize that Sweet Guy was coming today. Had I known, I would have made these changes hours ago, but alas, we must slog through the process in person." They all seemed to match my jovial demeanor, but the first officer asked, "Who's Sweet Guy?" I feigned shock and gave him a brief rundown of my previous interaction with the man on the phone. The first officer was quick to throw the captain under the bus, at which point I said, "So you're Sweet Guy. It's a pleasure to finally make your acquaintance in person. I wanted to make sure you didn't feel like you were getting screwed. Although I'm concerned because from my experience happiness is a feeling that comes from the inside, so I'm not sure this larger room will give you the key." Sweet Guy seems a little off balance for being called out. So he nervously says, "Well, I'll feel pretty happy in a suite." "Perhaps we can start from the outside and work our way in," I said as I handed out keys. In any event, have a wonderful day, and please let us know if you need anything else. As we were walking away, I smiled, pointed at him, and yelled, "Sweet guy," as if I was cheering for a basketball player. I hope I made my point. What do you think? Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, episode 85. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do share it around with all your friends and family. I greatly appreciate it when you do that. Okay, sorry for no video yesterday. I had a busy day. Check up at the dermatologist, and I was too tired, basically, to make a video. That was the only reason. But we got one ready for today, so good. Now we do have a birthday shout out. Well, it was actually meant to be yesterday, but no video yesterday. Today's birthday shout out goes to Anthony. Anthony is 21 this year. I hope you had a good birthday. I heard tales of someone doing drunken Beat Saber. I'm not saying it was you, but if it was, well done. Alright, now before we go, I'm going to sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Anthony. Happy birthday to you. Okay, let's see. And also a little late, they didn't specify they wanted a birthday song. Just a happy birthday. It was on the 18th. Happy birthday goes to Marshall. And Marshall was 20 on the 18th. Hope you had a good time, bud. And for a second I thought I'd missed one in the 15th. But no, we did, we did Jenny. Jenny was 50. We got that one, okay. Oh, I just hadn't moved it into the complete folder. Bad Hellfreezer. Okay, I think that's us for now. Alright, with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.